Hello, folks. Welcome to Business Spotlight. My guest today started his adult life as a classically trained musician. He went on to be a music teacher at the world famous Eton College, and he's now transferred those creative skills to build a sensational business. My guest today is the incredible Martin Lewis, the founder of Evess Group. Martin, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. Your story is a remarkable one. Why don't we dive straight in? And why don't you tell me about how you took that step from your musical career to starting what is now an extraordinary business?
For me, it was a light bulb moment when I attended graduation and I realized on that very day that I was spending more money to rent my gown than it cost to rent a car. And I think I probably spent more time in queues than I did with my family. The picture that went on my wall, I didn't even get to pick it. Someone else picked it for me. I was like, this is a critical day for the university. I spent 3 years of hard work and it feels like in this moment, I am not valued. So I said, okay, first of all, someone's probably making quite a lot of money. Second of all, I can do this better. So what does any disgruntled student do? They start their own graduation company. And that is after training as a classical musician for many years. So that's how passionately I felt that I could make a difference. And that's where it's all come from.
You're really disrupting that sector now and working with tens of thousands of students across the UK. I'm sure it wasn't all a straightforward journey though, Martin. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you started your business in the beginning, and how did you overcome them?
Disrupting a traditional, staid, archaic industry is quite fun. So it's always been a good, fun journey, but it has been difficult. Players that have been around for literally hundreds of years don't want you coming in and disrupting things. And the market almost is written for those players to succeed. So the biggest boundary, the biggest hurdles all came around how do we penetrate the market? Now, let's put it this way. Sometimes to win a contract, there are prerequisites. There are things that just as a small company, you'll run out of cash before you can get them and even bid on a contract. So overcoming those hurdles, and I won't be too specific, but it could be a minimum turnover or a list of previous contracts that you've had of a similar size. Now, it's just like getting work experience and finding that first job. How do you get the first contract? And that was where we had to really knuckle down, learn our subject, that deep domain knowledge of what making gowns is that no one else really has in the world apart from 3 or 4 different companies. Learning that and then trying harder, growing our client base from small colleges to large colleges to small universities to large universities, and then really breaking through that way. It was a long journey. In fact, to get our first real taste of success, it took 5 years to win that first contract. So that's the biggest hurdle, actually gaining the first contract.
So a long lead term there, and you've got now, as you mentioned, a really, really strong customer base. How did you go about kind of establishing a strong brand in actually what was quite a staid and competitive industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you mentioned, it is a very kind of unevolving industry. It's probably, I think when my parents graduated, graduation probably looked the same back then as it does now. And for me, I wanted to change that. And so I took the things that I cared about, which is sustainability and technology, and embedded that into the service because I knew that actually sustainability is what students care about. If we can make the gowns out of recycled post-consumer plastic, make them carbon neutral, it's almost like you're giving back to the students right on that valuable graduation day. And then technology, which I'll just touch on briefly because I think it's quite cool. We have an RFID chip in the gown, which when I tell people that it's almost like a smart gown, they love it. And when they cross the stage, that picture that's taken, well, it gets tagged with that RFID's code, goes into the cloud. Before the students even got back to their seats, they can see that picture. In fact, before the ceremony is even over, whilst the orator is still reading out names, people are buying those photos. That's kind of the Amazon level of expectation that we want to bring to graduations. And that is kind of our ethos. How can we make the experience the best it can possibly be? And from that, the clients, the universities, they notice that. Something's different. Students can actually have a supplier that gives them things that they care about. And from that point onwards, you get traction and the market slowly gets shaped by you as a new incumbent.
So look, let's just dive into that then, because you are all about the technology to drive the disruption and the innovation. How do you, and you've only just touched the surface there with what you do. How do you foster that culture of innovation and creativity within your organization?
I think we've been really lucky because Many of the things we do in terms of technology normally have a functional use, first of all, something internal. But what we like to do as a company is take those functional things and turn them into something more experiential that we can then deploy on the day that the students can benefit from. So for instance, that RFID tag on the gown is actually an asset management tool. But when you actually deploy it on site as a photo admin tool to make, even when you go to our print kiosk, you scan that chip and your picture prints out because it knows it's you, an experiential benefit. And that's what's really key. And our company really loves, and everyone in it, doing those sorts of things that can turn something functional into something experiential. And that's kind of what we focus on. We've got this cool bit of hardware, we've got this bit of software. What can we develop in terms of more software to do clever things with it? And COVID was probably the most important thing for us. Most companies stood still. We saw it as a chance to outpace our competitors in terms of technology. So just by way of example, the world's first virtual graduation platform was created by us. We had about 30,000 users from a standing start. And we developed that from when COVID really became a problem, to August, those kind of 4 or 5 months. And we had a product, an MVP, ready to deploy by August, ready to meet the demand of all the cancelled graduations. So not only do we like technology and innovation, we like to deploy projects professionally and to a strict plan. So that's an important competency to have as a company.
That was a great opportunity for innovation for you, as it was in many businesses. Can you share any pivotal or defining moments across the kind of the growth of the business that's really kind of impacted on it, and any decisions that you might have taken along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, learning how to create a tech product during COVID was really important. That gave us new skills that we didn't have before. And that pivotal moment, knowing that actually now we can deploy what we might call the correct product market fit for our clients, because they're asking for things that no one could deliver on before. But because we built this virtual graduation platform, which, although we don't use it too much anymore because we have physical graduations back in the calendar, we developed the world's kind of, not first, but a virtual class photo where you take a picture of yourself, it puts an AR mortarboard on your head, cuts you out of your background and drops you into a picture of all of your friends in a notable place at the university. And it also knows who your friends are because of the platform. So that was really cool. And we thought, how can we now take these virtual aspects and apply them to the physical ceremony to drive experience and revenue? So that pivotal moment was knowing, actually, we developed all these products, but they weren't going to go to waste. We're now going to redeploy them in the physical domain and earn from it forever, hopefully.
You said it took, earlier on, you said it took 5 years to get your first client. I'm sure it's not all been a bed of roses. How do you handle failure and setback, and what lessons have you learned along the way, Martin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we deal with everything from, we're basically a niche events company, but we also deal with our own supply chain from beginning to end. That's the factories in China. And, with that comes the global supply chain issues that many companies have found over the last few years. So having to develop what is not only a supply chain, but a world-class supply chain to overcome that is probably one of the biggest kind of hurdles and challenges. Probably the biggest pain point we've had overall is now that we're shaking the industry, the incumbents are not happy. And of course, they're upping their game. So the biggest problem we have is, how do we stay ahead of them? How do we make sure that we're spending money on something we can earn from forever, but also we're 2 steps ahead of every single competitor out there? And because we're ahead of them, they're following us, it gives us that head start. So now we're constantly thinking, what can we do next? And that's important, to always be focusing on the next bit of innovation, because the moment you stand still, your competitors catch up. They're bigger than us. They can deploy it probably just as quick as us, but they've got more clients than us, which means it's harder to work through that change. So if we, once we're small, can get all these pieces in place, then hopefully we've got something that scales up. And we are in infancy in terms of what I want to achieve. So, it's great to have that product market fit here right at the beginning, where we have 6.5% market share. And, 5 years from now, we could have 40-50%.
So you're really using technology and innovation to sustain first mover advantage and be agile. That's fantastic. Let's talk a bit about Martin. You're running a very significant organization now. You've got a big team. You're an amazing success story. You're also a busy husband, and you're a new dad as well. Congratulations on that.
Thanks very much.
So let's think a little bit about work-life balance and keeping all of that in check. How do you maintain your work-life balance as a busy entrepreneur, and what strategies do you use to avoid burnout?
So the key thing for me has been hiring the right people. The team is everything. And these are people that, yes, they would quite happily sleep on the office floor with you. I hired a lot of those near the beginning, but now it's about finding people that have the skills, the competencies to unlock the potential for the future, but also see our vision as something they want to be part of. And it's quite interesting. A lot of the people that work in the company, particularly as we progress, I imagine have worked in smaller businesses as well as larger businesses, and have also scaled small businesses into larger businesses. That's what we're looking for, people who have the skills to unlock what we need. For me personally, finding those people has given me a lot of time back. And now I can concentrate on a few things. So I like looking in the whites of people's eyes. I like going to see our clients and making them feel valued. So I'm doing more of that and less of the operations and the things that there's so many more people out there that can do it twice as good as me, 10 times better than me. Why not leave them to do it? I do get this question actually quite a lot from our clients. How do you manage all these universities? How are you going to scale up? And I say to them, most of my time is spent speaking to clients, making sure we're delivering what they need. I don't actually execute the operation. So me being here is the value, the fact that you can speak to me directly as a client. So I try and do more of that, but also over the period of time that's coming ahead, I'm seeing about how we can scale the business up and give myself more time back as well, which obviously is important. We always talk about kind of that work-life balance, and with a new kid, you assess that kind of in more scrutiny. And thanks to yourself, obviously, and a lot of the mentorship and coaching you've given me, we as a family, have a lot of really good quality time. And it comes from the fact, I think, number one, hire the right people.
But for you, very much it's about acting as the CEO, right? And kind of being a little bit more hands-off on the operations and a lot more hands-on with the relationships. That's a really big insight. So look, the business has scaled really well. You've had a tremendous success story. Have there been some really effective growth strategies that you've used that have really helped you to accelerate the growth of the business?
Yeah, I think for us, it's about taking a period of experimentation to really find what your product market fit is. It's easy to try and guess what it is, but until you speak to your customers, and actually it slowed us down at the beginning, saying yes to lots of things and building it into our platforms. But when you get to a point where you've got traction, you say, let's take all of these things that we know our clients want. Let's make a more streamlined product. Let's take out all the things we don't want. And now let's have a product that is fit for purpose, and we can deploy it accurately, consistently, and profitably across any of our clients with minimum input from myself and maximum efficiency from the team. So the biggest part of our growth strategy has been to develop that product that we know works for our clients. Because once we know we've got that perfect, we know we can deploy it consistently.
You talked a moment ago about spending more and more time with clients, even as the business grows, but in that CEO kind of role. Can you talk a little bit about how important building strong relationships has been in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Relationships are everything. I imagine some incumbents probably treat contracts as contracts, but we treat contracts as relationships. Because at the end of the day, particularly in our area of work where we're doing face-to-face events, we're kind of the face of the university on site. We actually say to our clients, we are collaborating with you. We are an extension of everything you're doing. We want to give your students the best experience possible so that they become advocates of you as a university, which could result in better alumni donations or students coming back to do a master's. We take it seriously. And that's when a relationship becomes more than just a contract. So relationships are everything, particularly when in this area of work where you're trying to make the last memory be the lasting memory, which I think is a phrase you gave me. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You've talked a lot about how technology is really important to maintain your competitive advantage. How on earth do you stay up to date and stay abreast with all the technological developments that are going on around you?
That is a really good question. So I need to talk to a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me, other entrepreneurs. I've got friends that are in legal tech, all sorts of different technology areas, health tech. And, I ask them what they're up to, and we share ideas, and I speak to, business coaches, mentors, anyone who maybe has a small business. We have a few people in the company where people have a little kind of side business, and I speak to them and they come up with new things they've been working on. We share ideas. To keep on top of everything, you just need to experiment and try a few of these ideas. And once you try them, you know which ones work and you put your money there. But in terms of innovation itself, it's really important to just keep mutating your products where there's value in them, and knowing also when innovation isn't working. Potentially you've just caused yourself a massive headache and spent some money, but it's okay to say no to something. Saying no to something glorifies that money you were going to spend on that can be dedicated to something else. So it's really important to know kind of which areas of innovation are working for you, speaking to people and knowing what they're doing, which you could apply to your business.
Martin, you've had a phenomenal success story at a relatively young age. What advice or words of wisdom would you give to other young entrepreneurs that are looking to emulate the journey that you've been on?
For me, I think being a solo founder has been quite difficult. That's why I emphasize team so much, because I've had to build a team to make myself feel like I'm not a solo founder. So if I was going to do it again, I'd probably find a really driven individual to be a co-founder. I think we'd be far ahead of where we are if I'd done that. But at the end of the day, there are benefits to being a solo founder in terms of decision making and the end benefits of it all. But halving that stress would be a luxury I don't have. And other founders could have that. So always consider the option of, bringing in co-founders, at least one other. I have no basis to compare it on because I've never had that, but, that would be a recommendation.
Great advice, Martin. It's been absolutely brilliant to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Mark.
Folks, if you'd like to come and join me on Business Spotlight and share your story just like Martin has done, then we'd love to have you on. Just comment apply below. And we'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much indeed. Until next time, bye for now.